Anna had always dreamed of a fairy tale wedding, but life had other plans. At 22, she found herself standing before a justice of the peace, her hands trembling as she held a bouquet of hastily purchased flowers. Joe, her soon-to-be husband, stood beside her, his eyes a mix of excitement and uncertainty. The pregnancy test had come as a shock just weeks earlier. They had been dating for only 6 months, but suddenly they were faced with a decision that would alter the course of their lives forever. Anna remembered the night they decided to get married. They sat on the floor of her tiny apartment, surrounded by takeout containers and crumpled tissues. Joe had taken her hand and assured her that they could do this, that they would make it work. Anna had wanted to believe him. She still did. The ceremony was brief, almost clinical. As they exchanged vows, Anna could not help but think of all the things they were missing. The white dress she had always imagined, the tearful congratulations from family and friends, the carefully planned reception. Instead, they had a quick lunch at a nearby diner, both of them too nervous to eat much. The first few months of marriage were a whirlwind of doctor's appointments, work, and frantic preparations for the baby. They moved into a small apartment, barely big enough for two, let alone three. Anna watched as her body changed, feeling simultaneously in awe and terrified of the life growing inside her. Joe tried his best to be supportive, but Anna could see the strain in his eyes. They were both so young, so unprepared for the weight of responsibility that had been thrust upon them. There were nights when Anna lay awake, listening to Joe's steady breathing beside her, wondering if they had made a terrible mistake. Then came the day their son was born. Luke entered the world screaming, his tiny fists clenched as if ready to fight. As Anna held him for the first time, she felt a surge of love so intense it nearly overwhelmed her. For a moment, all her doubts and fears faded away. She looked at Joe, saw the tears in his eyes, and thought that maybe they could do this after all. But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the reality of their situation began to set in. The sleepless nights, the constant worry, the financial strain, it all took its toll. Joe and Anna began to argue more, their conversations reduced to terse exchanges about diapers and bills. Anna found herself longing for the carefree days of her youth, for the dreams and ambitions she had put on hold. As she rocked Luke to sleep each night, she wondered what her life might have been like if things had turned out differently. But then she would look down at her son's peaceful face, and she knew she could never regret the choice that had brought him into her life. Still, as their first year of marriage drew to a close, Anna could not shake the feeling that something was missing. She and Joe were partners, yes, but were they truly husband and wife? She loved him, or at least she thought she did, but was love enough to build a life on? These questions haunted Anna, whispering in the back of her mind as she went about her days. Little did she know, they were only the beginning of a journey that would test the very foundations of everything she thought she knew about love, loyalty, and herself. Anna had always thought that betrayal would feel like a sudden, sharp pain. Instead, it crept up on her slowly, a gnawing suspicion that grew with each late night at the office, each hastily ended phone call. Luke was barely 6 months old when Anna found the first evidence, a receipt for a restaurant she had never been to, tucked into Joe's jacket pocket as she was doing laundry. She told herself it was nothing, just a business dinner, but the doubt had taken root. Weeks passed, and the signs multiplied. The scent of unfamiliar perfume, mysterious texts that Joe quickly deleted, the growing emotional distance between them. Anna wanted to confront him, but fear held her back. She wondered if she was wrong or if she was right. The truth, when it finally came, was both a relief and a devastation. Anna had taken Luke to visit her mother, giving Joe some alone time he had claimed to need. She returned early, the baby asleep in her arms, to find Joe and a woman she had never seen before scrambling to dress in their living room. The confrontation that followed was a blur of tears and accusations. Anna remembered screaming, her voice hoarse with pain and betrayal. Joe's excuses and apologies blended into a meaningless drone as she clutched Luke to her chest, as if he could shield her from the reality crumbling around them. In the days that followed, Anna moved through life in a daze. She fed Luke, changed him, sang him to sleep, all while feeling as if she was watching someone else perform these tasks. Inside, she was hollow, echoing with the sound of her shattered trust. Joe begged for forgiveness. He swore it had been a mistake, a moment of weakness. He promised it would never happen again. Anna listened to his pleas with a detachment that surprised even her. She had thought she would feel rage, a burning desire for revenge. Instead, she felt numb. The decision to stay or leave consumed Anna's every waking moment. She made lists, weighing pros and cons as if she could quantify love and betrayal. She thought of Luke, of the life she had imagined for him. She thought of the vows they had made, standing before that justice of the peace what felt like a lifetime ago. In the end, it was not a single moment of clarity that led to Anna's decision. It was a series of small realizations, the way Joe's eyes filled with tears when he looked at Luke, the memory of his steady presence during her pregnancy, the life they had built, imperfect as it was. Anna chose to stay, not out of weakness or fear, but out of a belief that what they had was worth fighting for. She told Joe of her decision one night after Luke had gone to sleep. His relief was palpable, but Anna made it clear that things would have to change. They began counseling, slowly rebuilding the trust that had been shattered. There were good days and bad days, days when Anna felt they were making progress, and days when the pain of betrayal felt as fresh as ever. As she watched Luke grow, taking his first steps and saying his first words, Anna wondered if she had made the right choice. The doubt lingered, a constant companion to the love she still felt for Joe. But she had made her decision, for better or for worse. Only time would tell if forgiveness was truly possible, or if the cracks in their foundation would eventually bring everything crumbling down. Anna stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror, barely recognizing the woman who looked back at her. At 27, she felt decades older. The bright-eyed girl who had once dreamed of adventure and romance had been replaced by a tired mother with dark circles under her eyes and a permanent crease between her brows. 5 years had passed since Luke's birth, since Joe's betrayal, and their decision to rebuild their marriage. In many ways, they had succeeded. Their home was stable, Luke was thriving, and Joe had remained faithful. Yet as Anna splashed cold water on her face, she could not shake the feeling that something fundamental had been lost along the way. Her days had become an endless cycle of mundane tasks. Wake up, prepare breakfast, get Luke ready for school, clean the house, do laundry, prepare dinner, help with homework, bedtime routine, repeat. The monotony was suffocating. Anna had once been a person with dreams and ambitions. Now she was simply Luke's mom or Joe's wife. She had tried to reclaim pieces of her old self. She had enrolled in an online course, hoping to rekindle her passion for writing. But more often than not, Anna found herself too exhausted to focus, the words blurring before her eyes as she struggled to stay awake after Luke had gone to bed. Joe and Anna had made attempts to reconnect, to rediscover the spark that had brought them together in the first place. They had scheduled date nights, hired babysitters, and even planned a weekend getaway. But their conversations inevitably circled back to Luke's school performance or household bills. The silences between them grew longer, heavier with each passing day. Anna had begun to feel like a ghost in her own life, going through the motions without truly living. The woman who had once written poetry and dreamed of traveling the world now found her greatest excitement in choosing between laundry detergents at the supermarket. It was during one particularly grueling week that Anna's mother called, suggesting they meet for lunch at the mall. The idea of a few hours away from the house, away from the constant demands of motherhood and marriage, felt like a lifeline thrown to a drowning woman. Anna spent the next few days anticipating this small escape.
Hi, Mrs. Touching Stories here. Enjoying the story? Subscribe now, like, and comment to catch all the upcoming emotions.
She imagined sitting in a cafe, having an adult conversation that did not revolve around children or household chores. She even allowed herself to daydream about browsing shops aimlessly, trying on clothes that were not practical for chasing after a 5-year-old. The morning of their planned meeting, Anna found herself putting extra effort into her appearance. She applied makeup for the first time in weeks, even digging out a pair of earrings from the back of her jewelry box. As she got ready, she caught Joe watching her with a mixture of curiosity and something that might have been concern. Joe asked if she was going somewhere special, his tone casual but his eyes searching. Anna shrugged, avoiding his gaze, and replied that she was just meeting her mom at the mall and thought she would make an effort for once. He nodded, but Anna could sense his unasked questions. She wondered if this outing was really just about lunch with her mother, or if it was about something more. As Anna left the house, she felt a twinge of guilt mixed with a surge of anticipation. This lunch date felt like more than just a break from routine. It felt like the first step towards something. She was not sure what exactly, but she knew that she could not continue as she had been. Little did Anna know that this simple outing would set in motion a chain of events that would force her to confront everything she thought she knew about herself, her marriage, and the life she had chosen. Anna stood in the bustling mall, her phone clutched tightly in her hand, rereading the message from her mother. Her mother had canceled their lunch date due to a last-minute work emergency. The disappointment hit Anna harder than she had expected, leaving her feeling adrift in the sea of shoppers around her. For a moment, Anna considered returning home. The thought of facing the pile of laundry and the sink full of dishes made her stomach churn. She had been looking forward to this break, this small taste of freedom, for days. The idea of giving it up so easily felt like admitting defeat. On an impulse, Anna found herself walking towards a familiar corner of the mall. The old restaurant where she had spent countless hours during her teenage years still stood, its faded sign a relic of a time that felt like another life. She hesitated at the entrance, feeling oddly nervous, as if she was about to step back in time. The interior had changed little over the years. The same worn booths lined the walls, the same tacky decorations hung from the ceiling. Anna slid into a booth near the back, the vinyl seat squeaking beneath her. As she picked up the menu, she was hit by a wave of nostalgia so strong it nearly took her breath away. Anna was so lost in memories that she did not notice someone approaching until a familiar voice broke through her reverie. She looked up, her heart skipping a beat as she met the eyes of Tom, her high school sweetheart. He stood there, a mix of surprise and warmth in his expression, looking both exactly the same and completely different from the boy she had once known. Anna breathed Tom's name, a smile spreading across her face before she could stop it. She asked what he was doing there. Tom gestured to the takeout bag in his hand, explaining that he was just grabbing lunch and that he worked nearby now. He paused, his eyes taking her in, and asked if he could join her. Anna nodded, suddenly feeling shy as he slid into the booth across from her. For a moment, neither of them spoke, the weight of their shared history hanging between them. Tom finally broke the silence, asking with a hint of his old mischievous grin if married life was treating Anna well. The question caught her off guard. She had not realized he knew about her marriage. But of course, in a town this size, news traveled fast. Anna found herself hesitating, unsure how to answer. She finally admitted that it was complicated, surprising herself with her own honesty. She told Tom that she had a son now, Luke, who was 5 years old. Tom's eyes softened, and he expressed his belief that Anna must be a great mom. The simple compliment brought unexpected tears to Anna's eyes. She couldn't remember the last time someone had said something like that to her. They fell into easy conversation, reminiscing about old times and catching up on the years that had passed. Tom told her about his career in graphic design, his travels, his life in the city. Anna found herself hanging on every word, living vicariously through his stories. As they talked, Anna felt something awakening inside her. It was as if a part of herself that had been dormant for years was slowly coming back to life. With Tom, she was not just a wife or a mother. She was Anna again, the girl with dreams and ambitions, the girl who loved to laugh and debate and dream. Time seemed to slip away as they sat there, their cold coffees forgotten on the table. It was only when Anna's phone buzzed with a text from Joe, asking when she would be home, that reality came crashing back. Anna looked at Tom, feeling a mix of emotions she could not quite name. She reluctantly said that she should go. He nodded, understanding in his eyes. As they stood to leave, he hesitated, then pulled out a business card. Tom expressed how great it was to see her and suggested they catch up again sometime if she wanted. Anna took the card, her fingers brushing against his. A jolt of electricity seemed to pass between them, and for a moment she was transported back to stolen kisses behind the school gym, to summer nights filled with possibility. As Anna left the mall, Tom's card burning a hole in her pocket, she felt both exhilarated and terrified. Something had shifted, some dormant part of her reawakened. She did not know what it meant or where it would lead, but she knew that things could not remain as they were. The Anna who walked out of that mall was not quite the same as the one who had entered it just hours before. And as she drove home to her waiting family, she could not shake the feeling that her carefully constructed life was about to be turned upside down. Anna stood outside Tom's apartment, her heart pounding so loudly she was sure the entire neighborhood could hear it. She had told Joe she was meeting an old friend for coffee. It was not entirely a lie, but the omission of Tom's name felt heavy on her conscience. As Tom opened the door, his warm smile sent a flutter through Anna's stomach. She stepped inside, the scent of his cologne enveloping her, bringing back a flood of memories from their youth. Tom expressed his gladness that Anna had called, his voice soft. The gentleness in his tone was a stark contrast to the terse exchanges Anna had grown accustomed to with Joe. They sat on his couch, a respectable distance between them at first. But as they talked, laughed, and reminisced, that space seemed to shrink. Anna found herself leaning in, drawn to his warmth, his attentiveness, the way his eyes never left hers as she spoke. When Tom's hand brushed against Anna's, it was like a jolt of electricity. She knew she should pull away, but she did not. Instead, she leaned in, and their lips met in a kiss that was both familiar and thrillingly new. In the days and weeks that followed, Anna found herself constantly comparing Tom to Joe. Where Joe was distant and preoccupied, Tom was attentive and engaged. Joe's touch had become perfunctory, a habit rather than a desire. Tom's touch set Anna's skin on fire, awakening sensations she had almost forgotten. Yet even as Anna reveled in Tom's attention, guilt gnawed at her. Each time she looked at Luke, each time Joe absent-mindedly kissed her cheek before leaving for work, she felt a pang of remorse. She had become the very thing she had once despised, a cheater. But the excitement of the affair was intoxicating. With Tom, Anna rediscovered parts of herself she thought were long gone. They talked about books, debated politics, shared their dreams. He listened when she spoke about her abandoned writing ambitions, encouraging her to pick up the pen again. As weeks turned into months, Anna found her perception of relationships shifting. She had always believed that marriage was about compromise, about putting your family's needs before your own. But with Tom, she began to wonder if it was possible to have both, a fulfilling relationship and a sense of individual identity. The contrast between Anna's life with Joe and her stolen moments with Tom became increasingly stark. At home, she felt like a ghost, going through the motions of being a wife and mother. With Tom, she felt alive, seen, valued for who she was beyond her roles. Yet, the weight of Anna's deception grew heavier with each passing day. She found herself snapping at Luke, impatient with his innocent demands for attention. Her interactions with Joe became strained, filled with unspoken accusations, hers for his emotional absence, his for her growing distance. One night, as Anna lay awake beside Joe's sleeping form, she realized that something had to give. The double life she was leading was unsustainable. She was changing, her desires and expectations evolving in ways she had never anticipated. Anna thought back to the day in the mall when she had run into Tom, how that chance encounter had set in motion a series of events that were reshaping her entire world. She had stepped onto this path, seeking excitement, a break from the monotony of her life. Now she found herself at a crossroads, faced with decisions that would impact not just her, but everyone she loved. As dawn broke, casting a pale light through their bedroom window, Anna knew that the time for hiding was coming to an end. Something would have to break, and when it did, nothing would ever be the same again. As summer faded into autumn, Anna's affair with Tom blossomed like a late-season flower, vibrant and unexpected. What had begun as stolen moments and hurried encounters evolved into something deeper, more profound.
Hi, Mrs. Touching Stories here, Enjoying the story? Subscribe now, like, and comment to catch all the upcoming emotions.
Anna found herself rediscovering aspects of her personality that had long been dormant. With Tom, she was not just a mother or a wife, but Anna, passionate, opinionated, creative. He unearthed the parts of her she had buried beneath layers of responsibility and routine. One rainy afternoon, as they lay tangled in his sheets, Tom asked about Anna's writing. She had mentioned it once, offhandedly, but he had remembered. He gently probed why she had stopped, his fingers tracing patterns on her skin. Anna hesitated, the words catching in her throat. She explained that life had happened. Marriage, Luke, bills to pay. It had just faded away. Tom's eyes met hers, intense and earnest. He asked if the desire to create and express herself was still a part of her. His question stirred something within Anna, a longing she had suppressed for so long. That night, for the first time in years, she opened her laptop and began to write. The words flowed like a river breaking through a dam, raw and unpolished, but undeniably hers. As the weeks passed, Tom's interest in Anna's life, her dreams, her thoughts never wavered. He listened with rapt attention as she shared her fears and hopes. He challenged her intellectually, pushing her to think deeper, to question her assumptions about the world and herself. Anna found herself opening up to him in ways she had never done with Joe. She told him about her childhood dreams, her secret fears, the parts of herself she had always kept hidden. And Tom, in turn, shared himself with her, his vulnerabilities, his aspirations, his regrets. Their emotional connection deepened alongside the physical. Anna began to crave not just his touch, but his presence, his insights, his laughter. The sound of his voice became a balm for her soul, soothing the jagged edges of her discontent. One crisp October evening, as they walked through a park ablaze with autumn colors, Tom took Anna's hand and told her that she was extraordinary, expressing his hope that she saw that in herself. His words hit Anna like a physical force. She couldn't remember the last time someone had seen her, truly seen her, and found her extraordinary. Tears pricked at her eyes and she turned away, overwhelmed by the intensity of her emotions. As the leaves fell around them, Anna realized with a startling clarity that she was falling in love with Tom. Not the heady, reckless love of their youth, but something deeper, more profound. A love born of mutual understanding, of shared dreams and vulnerabilities. The realization both thrilled and terrified Anna. She thought of Joe, of Luke, of the life she had built. She thought of the vows she had made, the promises she had broken. The guilt that had been her constant companion surged anew, threatening to drown her. Yet even as Anna grappled with her conflicting emotions, she could not deny the way Tom made her feel. Alive, valued, seen. He had awakened parts of her she thought were lost forever, reigniting passions she had long abandoned. As they made their way back to his apartment, hand in hand, Anna knew that she was standing on the edge of a precipice. The life she had known, the person she had been, was slipping away. In its place was emerging a new Anna, one she was only beginning to know. The weight of her choices pressed down on Anna, the future uncertain and fraught with potential pain. But as Tom squeezed her hand, his presence solid and reassuring beside her, she found herself stepping forward into the unknown, drawn by the promise of a love that saw her for who she truly was. The path ahead was unclear, obscured by the falling leaves of Anna's old life. But for the first time in years, she felt a flicker of hope, a sense that perhaps, just perhaps, she could find her way to a life that was authentically, uncompromisingly hers. As winter descended upon the city, the chill in the air seemed to mirror the growing coldness in Anna's marriage. Her affair with Tom had forced her to view her relationship with Joe through a new lens, and what she saw left her feeling hollow. Anna began to notice things she had overlooked for years. The way Joe's eyes glazed over when she spoke about her day, the perfunctory nature of his affection, the growing silence that stretched between them like an unbridgeable chasm. Yet she also saw glimpses of the man she had fallen in love with, his unwavering dedication to Luke, his quiet strength in times of crisis, the rare moments when his smile would light up his entire face. Tom, in contrast, seemed to embody everything Anna had been missing. His passion, his attentiveness, the way he challenged her intellectually. But he was not without flaws. She saw his impulsiveness, his tendency to avoid difficult conversations, the restlessness that sometimes made her wonder if he could ever truly settle down. Anna found herself caught in a constant internal struggle. On one side was her duty to her family, the vows she had made, the stability Luke deserved. On the other was her burning desire for personal fulfillment, for a love that saw and nurtured all aspects of who she was. Nights became a torment. Anna would lie awake, Joe's steady breathing beside her mind racing with comparisons and what-ifs. She thought of the life she had built with Joe, the history they shared. Then she would think of Tom, of the future that glimmered tantalizingly on the horizon, full of possibility and passion. The guilt was a constant companion, gnawing at Anna relentlessly. Every time Luke smiled at her, every time Joe absently kissed her cheek before leaving for work, she felt like a fraud. The weight of her deception was becoming unbearable. It was on a snowy Saturday afternoon that fate decided to intervene. Anna had taken Luke to the local park, bundled up against the cold. As he played on the swings, she sat on a nearby bench, lost in thought. Suddenly, Anna heard her name being called. She looked up, her heart stopping as she saw Tom standing there, a look of surprise on his face. Before Anna could respond, Luke came running over, asking who the man was. For a moment, Anna froze, unsure how to navigate this unexpected collision of her two worlds. But Tom, ever quick on his feet, crouched down to Luke's level and introduced himself as an old friend of Anna's. He asked Luke for his name. Luke, usually shy around strangers, seemed immediately at ease. He proudly introduced himself and stated his age. As Anna watched Tom and Luke interact, chatting about Luke's favorite superheroes and the snowman he wanted to build, she felt a surge of emotions so complex she could barely breathe. Tom was natural with Luke, genuinely interested in what the boy had to say. And Luke was responding with an openness Anna rarely saw him display with adults outside their family. The scene before her was both beautiful and heartbreaking. Anna saw a glimpse of what could be, a life where passion and family were not mutually exclusive. But she also saw the magnitude of what she stood to lose, the stability and familiarity of the life she had built with Joe. As they said goodbye to Tom, Luke waved enthusiastically, asking if they could see him again soon. Anna mumbled a non-committal response, her mind reeling. That night, as Anna tucked Luke into bed, he asked if Tom was her best friend. The innocent question hit Anna like a physical blow. She stroked Luke's hair, buying time as she struggled to find an answer that was not a complete lie. She finally replied that Tom was a very good friend, her voice barely above a whisper. As Anna turned out the light and closed Luke's door, she leaned against the wall, overwhelmed by the weight of her choices. The path forward had never seemed less clear. She was standing at a crossroads, and she knew that whatever decision she made would irrevocably change the course of not just her life, but the lives of those she loved most. The conflict that had been raging within Anna reached a fever pitch. As she made her way to her own bedroom, where Joe was already asleep, she realized that the time for indecision was coming to an end. Soon, she would have to make a choice and live with the consequences, whatever they might be. The weight of Anna's indecision had become unbearable. She stood at the kitchen window, watching the first signs of spring emerge in their small backyard. Luke's laughter drifted in from the living room where he played with Joe, the sound a bittersweet reminder of what was at stake. Anna had spent weeks agonizing over her choices, torn between the comfort of familiarity and the allure of passion. But after Tom's chance encounter with Luke at the park, something had shifted within her. She could no longer ignore the truth that had been growing in her heart. It was during a clandestine meeting with Tom that he finally voiced what had been hanging unspoken between them for months. He expressed his desire for Anna to leave Joe and be with him officially. Tom confessed that he had never stopped thinking about her all these years, and that finding her again had reawakened something he thought was lost forever. His words hit Anna like a physical force. She felt a rush of conflicting emotions: excitement, fear, guilt, longing. She remembered how she had once found Tom's romantic gestures almost too much when they were younger. She had teased him about being overly sentimental, too cheesy for her tastes. Yet now, faced with his raw honesty and open affection, Anna felt a pang of yearning. She wondered if a little romance and a touch of sweetness was exactly what she had been missing in her life with Joe. Anna struggled to find the right words to respond. She explained that it wasn't that simple, that she and Joe had a history and Luke to consider. She couldn't just walk away from that. Tom's face fell, but he nodded, understanding. He acknowledged that the situation was complicated, but expressed his belief that what they had was real. He assured Anna that he was willing to wait and help her through this, whatever she decided. His words left Anna reeling. As she made her way home that evening, her mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions. She thought of Joe, of their shared history, of the life they had built together. She thought of Luke, of the impact her choices would have on his young life. But she also thought of Tom, of the passion and understanding he offered, of the way he saw and appreciated aspects of who she was. That night, after Luke had gone to bed, Anna found herself sitting across from Joe at their kitchen table. The distance between them felt insurmountable, yet she knew they needed to have an honest conversation. Anna whispered that they needed to talk. Joe looked up, his eyes meeting hers. For a moment, Anna saw a flicker of something. Fear, perhaps, or resignation. He nodded, setting his phone aside. What followed was the most painful and honest conversation they had had in years. Anna spoke of her unhappiness, of the growing chasm between them. Joe listened, his face a mask of hurt and confusion. Joe expressed his lack of understanding, stating that he thought they were okay. He mentioned Luke and their home, questioning what more there was. Anna asked if they truly had each other, wondering when was the last time they really talked or saw each other. As they talked, laying bare the wounds and disappointments of their marriage, Anna felt a mix of grief and relief. There were tears, angry words, moments of stunned silence. Joe spoke of his own frustrations, his sense of inadequacy, his struggle to balance work and family. Joe admitted that he never meant to drift away, expressing his uncertainty about how to fix their situation. The pain in his eyes was almost unbearable. Anna had loved this man once, had built a life with him, and part of her still loved him, still valued their shared history and the family they had created. As dawn broke, casting a pale light across their kitchen, they had reached no resolution. The future of their marriage hung in the balance, and Anna found herself more torn than ever. She thought of Tom's declaration, of the passion and new beginnings he offered. Then she looked at Joe, saw the history etched in the lines of his face, and felt the weight of their shared past. Luke's sleepy voice called out from his bedroom, and both Joe and Anna instinctively moved to respond. In that moment, Anna realized that her decision would impact far more than just her own happiness.
Hi, Mrs. Touching Stories here. Enjoying the story? Subscribe now, like, and comment to catch all the upcoming emotions.
As she stood in the hallway, caught between her son's room and the kitchen where Joe waited, Anna knew that she could not rush this decision. The path forward was unclear, fraught with potential for both joy and heartbreak. Anna took a deep breath, steeling herself for the difficult days ahead. Whatever choice she made would alter the course of not just her life, but the lives of those she loved most. It was a decision that would require careful thought, honest conversations, and a deep examination of what she truly wanted and needed in her life. As Anna went to comfort Luke, she silently promised herself that she would find a way forward, one that honored her own needs while also considering the well-being of her family. The final decision still loomed ahead, but for now, she had to focus on navigating the complex emotions and realities of her current situation. As spring blossomed into summer, Anna found herself at a crossroads she had never anticipated. After her conversation with Joe, they agreed to give their marriage one last chance. She stopped seeing Tom, focusing all her energy on rekindling what she and Joe had once shared. They went on date nights, stealing moments away from their responsibilities as parents. One weekend, they even took a short trip to the coast, just the two of them. It was nice in its way, comfortable, familiar. But as Anna watched the waves crash against the shore, she realized that comfort and familiarity were not enough anymore. Despite their best efforts, the spark between Anna and Joe refused to reignite. They laughed together, they shared memories, but there was an undeniable distance that had grown between them. It was as if they were actors playing the roles of a happily married couple, going through the motions without truly connecting. During those weeks, Anna found her thoughts drifting more and more to Tom. She missed their conversations, the way he challenged her intellectually, the passion that flared between them. She missed feeling truly seen and understood. It was on a quiet Sunday afternoon, as Anna and Joe sat in their backyard watching Luke play, that they finally acknowledged the truth they had both been avoiding. Joe softly commented that it wasn't working, his eyes fixed on their son. Anna felt a lump form in her throat. She whispered her agreement, admitting that she didn't think it was working either. They talked for hours that day. Really talked, in a way they had not done in years. They spoke of their hopes, their disappointments, their fears for the future. And as the sun began to set, casting long shadows across their yard, they came to a decision that was both heartbreaking and liberating. Joe expressed that they were too young to settle for a marriage without real connection. He believed that Luke deserved to see his parents happy, even if that meant they weren't together. Anna nodded, tears streaming down her face. She assured Joe that she would always care for him, that he would always be an important part of her life as Luke's father. But she couldn't finish her sentence. Joe completed her thought, acknowledging that they weren't in love anymore. He admitted that he felt it too. The following weeks were a whirlwind of practical decisions and emotional upheavals. They told Luke together, holding him as he cried, and promising him that their love for him would never change. They began the process of separating their lives, dividing assets, and planning for a future as co-parents rather than spouses. It was painful, and there were moments when Anna questioned everything. But underneath the sadness and uncertainty, she felt a growing sense of peace. They were making the right decision, not just for themselves, but for Luke as well. As summer turned to fall, Anna found herself standing on the threshold of a new chapter in her life. She and Joe had finalized their divorce, agreeing to a shared custody arrangement that put Luke's well-being first. It was only then, with the ink barely dry on their divorce papers, that Anna allowed herself to reach out to Tom. They met in the same park where he had encountered Luke months before. As she saw him approach, Anna felt a flutter in her chest that she had not experienced in years. Tom greeted Anna warmly, expressing that he had missed her. Anna smiled, feeling a mix of excitement and trepidation, and admitted that she had missed him too. As they walked through the park, talking and reconnecting, Anna knew that the road ahead would not be easy. There would be challenges as she navigated her new reality as a divorced mother, as she and Tom explored what their relationship could be beyond the intensity of their affair. But for the first time in a long time, Anna felt truly alive. She was no longer living a life of quiet desperation, trapped in a marriage that had lost its spark. Instead, she was choosing to pursue genuine happiness and connection, not just for herself, but for Luke as well. As the autumn leaves fell around them, Anna realized that endings could also be beginnings. She and Joe had ended their chapter together, but they were both free now to write new stories. And as she looked at Tom, she felt a surge of hope for the story they might create together. The future was uncertain, but it was also full of possibility, and Anna was finally ready to embrace it, with all its joys and challenges, with open arms and an open heart.